business, commercial, corporate. So if you've got any queries, we just want to have a chat, we've got ears to listen and we can have a chat with you. I won't make you guys introduce yourselves. That's good. So you can have a sit down. Thank you to Laura Baxter for inviting us along.
Who are you, sir?
Good question, actually. Thank you. I'm Nick Scott. I'm a commercial banker at BNZ. I've been in banking for nearly 15 years. Here in London and worked in Hong Kong and Australia. So what I've seen is a lot of companies' financials and forecasting, and I've seen a lot of great efforts. Some of them are really good, and as a banker we can make decisions off it. Some of them are great efforts. So with that sort of experience, that's what we're here to share today. And I'll tell you what our aims are, but first I'd like to say thank you to Laura Baxter, Sport Auckland, for inviting us along as part of our Close to Good Day, where we shut the bank and get into the community and spend a bit of time helping in the community. It's an important thing for BNZ and something as an employee that I'm very proud of. Sports clubs are a huge contributor to the community, and the people that make it happen give up their time, like yourselves, are the fabric of that, the community fabric. So it's a real pleasure to come along and have an opportunity to help, give some time, share some experience. I've got today to help me Gareth Hill, good time. Gareth works at a sort of mid-market boutique accounting firm. He's a chartered accountant. I've done some work with him and his other partners, and he's going to come and give us some technical, poignant things to talk about. Cheryl Martin, who is General Manager of Volunteering Auckland. Cheryl and I work together closely as I'm chairperson of Volunteering Auckland, something I do outside of work. And Cheryl's been in the role for coming up 19 years next week, and does an amazing job on governance. Has done a course at Auckland University and takes classes on governance as well, so we're very lucky to have her today. So right, kicking into it. Okay, the aim today is to give you some insights into your financial planning and with a strategic theme to it. I want to give you some confidence so you leave here today, go back to your sports clubs and feel like you can implement some changes and some improvements. I want to give you some ideas on how to do that, and we're also going to give you an actual start when we do a breakout at the workshop, give you something to do, and I hope you go back and hit the ground running, and have some fun as well. So on that note, I just a little brain teaser just to make sure we're all awake, because everyone's had a hard day at work. I've got two things here. This is a highlighter, a yellow highlighter. This is a yellow torch. It works, my son hasn't drained the battery. So what often happens in organisations, particularly if you've been doing the same thing for a long time, is it's very hard to think outside the box. And there's a lot of studies on this as well. People start thinking along the same lines. And some of you might have even noticed, for instance now with the political parties coming out, that people sort of start to adopt the language of the leader. So you really start to get thought patterns that are ingrained. So what I want you to do, look at these two things. Tell me what they have in common.
Yellow.
So the yellow, any other?
Right.
Both white, right? They're both
Highlight.
both highlight. Oh, yes. Both out in your hand. Both heard if I threw them at you.
Get it back.
So okay, well, just one second, just take a minute, just take a second and think. If you had to, how many things could you describe about these two that are the same? A number. So a number between 1 and 100. Now just keep that in your head for a second. Now, how many of you, now with that number in mind, how many of you thought of a number above 10? Hands up. Above 20? Hands up. A few? It's a few. Above 40? Got 1, got 2. Okay. Right, well, what would you say if I said I could name 1,000 things? You got to see my A bit crazy. Had a long day at work, maybe I need to lie down. Well, I'll give you an example, right? I've got a map here, let's imagine. And I just go, well, these two things are not in Japan, because we've got them in Australia. They're not in Argentina, they're not in London, they're not in Italy. No, I could go on and on. I could get to 1,000 easily. Wouldn't be a problem at all. And it's a silly little example, but the point is that it's very easy to get set in your ways, and new ideas can kind of seem a bit crazy. So I just encourage you to keep an open mind today. And in addition to the aims, the theme is, just let's have a look at thinking differently and have an open mind. So I'll crack on into the presentation. So today, in terms of content, Laura is going to be a very clear mandate. We're going to talk about annual and long-term financial planning, projections and forecasting, and then we're going to touch a little bit on efficiency in the financial process. This is how we're going to spend the next 2 hours, or we'll keep it to less than that. I haven't forgotten my promise. So an hour going through these things. We'll have a breakout session. We'll spend half an hour with a bit of a practical workshop. Really would like you to share ideas with each other. And there's BNZ banks spread out amongst you to sort of help that and answer any questions. And then we'll come back together. We'll share some experience from the workshop. I've also got something to share with you I'm quite excited about, which is BNZ Thinking Differently, where we've come up with something that we hope can help you with your fundraising. And I want to touch on our close look at next year, opportunity for you there, and also our Be Good for Money, which is something for your membership base. So I'll touch on that later. So the presentation, right? This presentation is a workshop, right? So it's practical. It's not. I'm not going to bore you with financials and show you numbers and figures and things like that. This is high level. The key messages today are this thing, financial planning. It's a dynamic thing, right? So you need to, in our experience, you've got to talk to the strategic plan, you've got to talk to the business plan, you've got to talk to your stakeholders. The other key message is that this stuff takes time. So one of the things that I'm focusing on is putting that time in for being organised. Just to emphasise that, now this is a process map. This is sort of business schools love to create, talking about what is financial planning, what's the process, and apologies that you're not all going to be able to read this, but it talks about identify and prioritise objectives, gather information, analyse information, make recommendations, take action, track ongoing progress. So these are all great words and things. But that's a heck of a lot of stuff to do. So it's really important, and that emphasises that you've got to put the time into it and the engagement. So that's the point I want to make. Now, let's have a look at how some organisations do this. I borrowed this from Auckland Council, actually. So just making a distinction between annual planning and long-term planning. Now, I know a lot of you here do a very good job of this, and I've just had a conversation with a few of you already. Essentially, this is about having a long-term plan, like a 10-year plan, really looking out to the distance where you'd like to be, And then having an annual plan, the sort of things that you can actually change in the next 12 months. So it's not rocket science. Looking a bit in a little bit more detail. So this is Auckland Council again. So they have a long-term plan. They review that every 3 years. So that's a really comprehensive thing to do. It takes a lot of time. So they do that every 3 years. For their annual plan, they set their annual plan every year. That's not a long-term plan yet. Just to make it easier on themselves, so you don't have too much on your plate. And then you have your annual report, which is, about checking where you're going, reporting on what you said you would do, and then they check on, they check their community outcomes. So going back to your membership base and saying, this is what you achieved, is that what you wanted? Are you happy with that? And changing the plan for next year. So here I've got, I'm calling it the document landscape. So these are the things that are involved when you're doing your financial planning. So you've got your vision and mission statement. You've got your strategic plan. You've got your business plan, your financial statements. You'll have your commitments that you must keep, that you've made. Then you have the new initiatives you want to do, and business cases for that. Can anybody share what their vision is for their sports club? Volunteers.
Grow membership.
Grow membership.
People in.
Yeah.
Make financially build your base to promote the sport.
Yeah.
That's our anyway. Get it out there.
Yeah. We're going to touch on volunteering Auckland's one soon. But yeah, it's actually a really important thing, which often is not really known throughout the organisation, and that goes back to the key message that I'm making of the engagement piece. Because if you don't all know what it is, then how are you going to go to someone for input on how we get there? So it's a good exercise to do to get that communication down through the organisation. So the other key message, it takes time. It'll help if you're organised. So, and this is about setting dates, actually having dates in your calendar, deadlines. Sort of creating a bit of room in there so that you can address these issues and take the time to go over what your vision statement is, engage with your staff, engage with your board, and then you can really come up with a plan that everybody's brought together and has buy-in. And this is something you refine over time. I want to make the point that Cheryl and I do a lot of work on this in Volunteer Auckland, and it's not perfect. And it takes time, and you refine it over time. There's a great quote on that. So I might go through. Winston Churchill said that change is perfect, and perfect is changing often. And his point is that you just can't be perfect. Something like this takes a lot of time. It's just a matter of making a start, refining it over time, and improve. So, why does it need a lot of time? Well, if I went through line by line what's involved, it's a bit of a shopping list, and you'd probably turn off and go to sleep. But we are going to have a crack at unpacking this a bit. But there's a heck of a lot of stuff that goes into it to get an effective financial plan and forecast together. So I've listed it up here for you to see. Just to emphasise that time needs to go into organising and setting time aside to do this. Often, and talking to Laura, the point was sort of made that often with all of the things that you've got to do on your plate and all the things you'd like to do, but actually being out in the sport ground, I had a quick chat with Scott from Ponsonby Rugby Club, who used to manage one of the Premier team and has taken up the treasurer role and hasn't really been out in the field since. Because, like all of you, you've got, by the time you get through your AGM and your annual report and your fundraising committees and remuneration committees, you really don't have much time for anything else. So often what seems to be the case is you come up to year end and you're about to start the next year. Quickly, let's get a financial plan together. We've got to get it signed off, and all of a sudden you're really trying to ram this whole list of things into the end of the year, and it's pretty difficult to do. So what would be fantastic is to just spread that out through the year and have set times and start the things early that you can. Just make it into bite-sized, digestible bits. And this is it. This is what we're going to do for the workshop. We're just going to have a little crack in groups to see to start that thought process. So that's coming a bit later. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty of projections and financial planning, I just wanted to sympathise with the challenge that you've got. Okay, so you're the treasurer or the general manager, and you want to improve the financial planning or the projections process. Some of you will be in clubs that have people in there that have served for 5, 10, 15, 20 years in a role, and coming back and saying that you're going to change how you do things is actually quite a big challenge for a lot of people. Yeah, so I sympathise with that, and just for a little inspiration, I did a little video. Is this sound going to come out?
Right, a laptop.
It'll only come out of a laptop. Okay, that's okay, because there's text on there and there's images, so this will be fine. Apologies if you can't read this. Barack Obama, this is Michael Jackson, eighth child of a poor family. This is a boy who wished to be a fast bowler, became the greatest batsman ever. Had to change. Not really sure who that is. If anybody knows who that is, enlighten me. There we go. To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often. That's Winston Churchill's quote. So just a little bit of I sympathise, and but you know you can make a change. There will be resistance. I sympathise with you there.
That's an understatement of you.
Okay, projections and forecasting. So back to the document landscape. So these are the documents that you have to refer to for guidance and figure out where you're going. So let's have a look. Let's unpack these. Strategic plan. So Volunteering Auckland has a strategic plan. You don't need to be able to read it, but this is what it looks like. One pager. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, come. So this is a really important document in my view. As chairperson of Volunteering Auckland, I make sure that we go over the vision at least once a year with the board. And Cheryl's going to show you an example of something else she does to really get some engagement. So on our strategic plan, we've got the vision up here at the top, guides everything we do. Well, I have a really silly story that I talk about because I'm a visual person about what the vision means to me, and that's how I try and communicate it to others. And it gets received by other people who are visuals, but probably not to everyone. But the point is that I just try and get some conversations going on that, and I ask people, what does that vision mean to you? For example, our vision at Volunteering Auckland is a community enriched by volunteering, and I've done an exercise once where I got the board members to pretend that they were Elvis or a street sleeper or a musician and tell me what a community that enriched looks like to them. Because for Elvis, a community that's enriched is one where everybody's dancing and singing, probably. For the street sleeper, a community that's enriched is one where he or she is dry and has food. For a musician, it's one where people have the time to appreciate their violin. So the vision, it's worth taking the time, I believe, to figure out what your vision is. I've been chatting earlier this with one of, I've been told, one of Australia's largest junior memberships in any cricket club. Dave over here, the general manager of Cornwall Park. Their vision might be something like, I'm not going to put Dave on the spot, just bringing growth and learning skills and discipline through cricket. And so getting that understanding amongst the board and the management, I think, is the first step to having a direction that you're all heading in. So that's at the top. Then we've got the mission statement, which is putting a bit more detail around it. And then the strategic plan and business plan. So strategic plan and business plan, if I go back to the slides I showed you earlier, from the Auckland Council use, the 10-year plan, that translates into the strategic plan. So your strategic plan, this is where we want to head, and we're going a long way off, and we're going to end up over there. The business plan is what's happening this year. This is what we can control this year. And your annual report. So here we've got it all mapped out. You can refer to it. You can see where we've come from, and then finally we've got the strategic plan in detail here, which we've got it under 3 headings. Making volunteering accessible is one, and then some guidance on what that means. And that's the board or the trustees talking to the management saying that this is what we want you to go out there and do. And if you can demonstrate that, then you've done your job, and we're going to be really pleased. So really important to give that direction. So that's the strategic plan, something I believe is hugely important. Now let's feed onto the business plan.
And that's where I come in, because that's part of my role.
Cheryl,
So
I was going to pass it to
yeah.
you. I was
No,
gonna
good
hold it.
team, good team.
Good team.
Yeah, so the strategic plan is your committee's responsibility, but you do need input from those that work within the club with you, and that includes all the volunteers that have direct input into the workings of the club. So the business plan is how we're going to carry out that strategic plan, and the strategic plan is simple, no more than 3 points. Your vision is simple, really keep it simple. And then, so we have, so here, this comes from the strategic plan, and this is how we're going to do it. So these are the actions, and that's how we know we've done it. So it's an action, how we're going to get there, and how do we know we've got there, and that's the measurable. Because if you're going to go for funding, which is part of what I have to do, is find every dollar to run Volunteering Auckland, I have to meet that, and that's what the funders want to know. So and some of those are going to need dollars around them. So if you're going to put a financial plan against this, you're going to know what you're funding, what you need money for, and how much is it going to cost.
So this is so when we split this, and what we've asked for as a board from Cheryl is to give us under the 3 headings. What are your goals? What actions are you going to do to achieve those, and what outcomes will you achieve? So it's the what we want you to achieve, how you get there, how do we know we got there?
And I don't do this by myself. I have a team that help me do this. All those that help deliver what we do. In other words, you're the teams that are involved in your club, or the various ages that are involved. Get them in on it as well. Ask them, what do you want to have happen this year? What do you want to have happen next year? What are some of the things that you want to achieve? That's what goes in this.
So an example, like going back to my friend Scott, who probably wishes he didn't chat to me earlier. So that Ponsonby Rugby Club. What I understand to be the most successful club in New Zealand in terms of churning out All Blacks. So one of their goals might be to further enhance our reputation. The action might be produce more high-profile professional players. The outcome might be an All Black every year. And then that ties back to your strategic goal of promoting rugby within Ponsonby. So you can see how it's dynamic. And these are stepping blocks that are essential before you get to your profit and loss and your financial statements. So you actually know where you're trying to get to. Engagement. This I believe is the 2 messages that I've been saying. It takes time, it takes engagement. This is the piece where you're talking to all of your stakeholders, the board, the management, your actual member base. Do you all know where each other is wanting to head, and are you going in the same direction? This, and I'm going to ask Cheryl to run you through this, and this demonstrates how important this is to Volunteering Auckland as an organisation. You'll see from this the time that's been put in and the effort, and hopefully you'll agree with me that it's time well spent.
So each year I run a bit of a workshop with our board, because if they're going to be making decisions about where we're going and where the finances are going, they really need to understand what it is we actually do. So with the help of my staff, and there's only 2 and a bit of us, and we've got about 15 to 20 volunteer staff, we put this together. We have to go back to basics sometimes because there's new people involved, so we always start off with our vision and mission, and we always have photos.